Every story needs conflict. A story without any conflict at all is a story about nothing. The conflict doesn't even have to be a fight. It can be a conflict of morals, conflict of interest, or an internal conflict with oneself. Video games at their heart are a vessel for storytelling, meaning video games are about conflict, and one of the most common mechanics in conflict is combat. Combat can take many forms due to the vast number of ways we can interact with a game world. There's FPS games, character action games, open world action games, survival games, platformers, stealth games, horror games. All of these include combat of some variety, and today I want to discuss a few examples of combat in video games. Dark Souls is one of the most well-known games of all time, recognised for its combat in particular. One of the things most known about the Souls games is that they are difficult, but what makes the Souls games hard? One aspect of the difficulty is the combat system itself. The combat is structured around one-on-one fights, which means that if you aggro too many enemies, it's very easy to be ganged up on and utterly destroyed by even the most basic foes. Not only that, but most enemies do a massive amount of damage, so even one could kill you rather quickly if you're not careful. The combat is based around attacking, defending, and dodging. Every animation in the game has a wind-up and cannot be interrupted once started. This means you have to time your attacks with an opening in your opponent's guard. Either one that they present themselves, or one that you create. When you block, it will deplete your stamina, which is a shared resource with your blocks, attacks, and dodges. Speaking of dodges, rolling also has many tiers to it that can affect the animation. The heavier the armor you're wearing, the slower your roll is. All of these factors make the back and forth of Dark Souls very engaging. The combat is similar to a game of chess, where each move made has a consequence. This incurs a slower pace and a more methodical approach, but on the other end of the spectrum, let's move on to our second game. I've spoken about this game's combat system in depth in my review of it, so I will only be covering the broad strokes here. The combat is much the opposite to Dark Souls, as while that game is about a methodical back and forth, this game is about looking as stylish as possible and schooling your enemies. The main thing here is to gain a level of mastery so high that you essentially never get hit. This is possible in Dark Souls, but with DMC5, this is more of a primary goal. Devil May Cry is a game with many different combos that can be activated with different button combinations that a lot of the time need to be pre-thought of in order to keep the combo looking stylish, while all these different buttons are being pressed in a rapid succession. Some of the high level players are absolutely insane to watch with just how fast and how consistently they can pull off the exact moves that they want to. But let's move on from melee and onto a more modern, more brutal form of warfare. Wolfenstein is going to be our representative for FPS combat, as I feel it is a nice blend of classic movement shooters and the modern Call of Duty-like FPS games. The game has a variety of weapons including pistols, shotguns and automatics, as well as a few different kinds of grenades. You can also dual wield more or less every type of gun in the game. You pick up ammo, health pickups and armor in order to last longer as you slay Nazis in an alternate history. This kind of game needs to pull off a very particular type of immersion, otherwise it may become boring. This is something that even some of the biggest FPS games can't pull off, and what makes it so impressive is that the combat does not have any inherent depth to it, unlike action games I've spoken about so far. All you're doing is pointing and clicking, but the scenarios the game presents and how it presents them manages to hide that fact from your mind. But everything I've spoken about so far has all been playable with a controller or keyboard and mouse. What about if we use our body as the controller? I wanted to talk about the VR version of SUPERHOT in particular because while the normal game is interesting, I find this one to have an extra layer of depth. This layer of depth comes from the fact that you control the character with your body. Now, this on its own is not a revolutionary feature. It's virtual reality, of course your body is the controller. But the base version of SUPERHOT has a really cool mechanic. Time only moves when you do. Now in VR, not only does your body control your character, but also time itself. Not only that, but the speed at which you move your body will control how quickly time passes. This has the effect of making you feel like fucking Neo from the Matrix with some of the shit that you can pull off. I really like the fact that your body is not just controlling a virtual one, but also extra game mechanics outside of the player character. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. I wanted to try something a little different and talk about a more general topic rather than just one specific game. I have a few other scripts like this that are kinda half finished, so let me know if you want to see them and if you like this more general type of video. I know it's a little bit shorter than a lot of my stuff, but in fairness, that's because this is a first bash. I have about a page or so in my notebook with ideas for these kinds of videos that I think could turn into interesting discussions. Also, if you have a favourite combat system from a video game, describe it to me down below and tell me why you love it so much. Anyway, I'll stop rambling now, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.